So Bob, can you tell me what's your first memory in wine?
My first memory in wine was I'm one of six children, and my parents used to drink the odd glass of sherry, and they'd go. That was a major expedition to get it at Nobelow's, and so we'd all bundle into the old Vauxhall, and off we'd go for an hour's drive. And Mrs. Nobelow, I must have been about 5 or 6, as I recall, but Mrs. Nobelow used to give us, me and my brothers and sisters, a small glass of sherry each, much to my mother's horror. We didn't like it at all, but it was so exciting, you know. That's the first wine that I can remember having tasted or even thought about. So, yeah.
Did you become a sherry drinker yourself?
In a small way. In fact, I wrote recently that one of the great tragedies is the decline, the pressure on sherry, the declining consumption. So I'm going to do my bit to drag it back from the edge of extinction, and I pledged to have a glass of sherry before dinner every Sunday night, which I have done since I wrote that column.
A delicious proposal.
Yeah.
And what inspired you to start a career in wine? Because you started down the accounting path.
Yes, I did.
Understand. Yeah. What kind of inspired the leap?
Well, I just joined a winery and as an accountant, Montana, back in the 70s, and all my friends said, "Oh, you must know about wine." You know, they all wanted cheap wine, of course. And I knew nothing about wine. I felt guilty about that, so I made a bit of an effort to try and learn something about it, and then I got the bug and just sort of went from there, really.
Excellent. And you're not only a prolific wine writer and judge, but you're very involved in wine education in New Zealand and have been for a long time, setting up the first wine school, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the first, but it's certainly an early wine school. We've had just about 23,000 people go through it. Excellent. Since 1986 when I started.
How do you see the kind of wine education here in New Zealand? You know, what's the kind of level of education? How much interest is there in wine?
Lots of interest in wine, and I think that there's several suppliers do the WSET program, and that's great. You know, that's really good. There's my course, of course, and there are some other night school courses that keep it going, and then there's the Master of Wine program too, which a lot of people are aiming at, and you know.
Yeah, you've got as a Master of Wine yourself, but you've got several in New Zealand now, don't you? Mainly winemakers, though, I understand.
Yeah, I've lost count exactly, but it must be 11 or 12. So someone said to me that we've got the highest number per capita after Britain, so that's something, I suppose.
Fantastic. And what are the trends in New Zealand in terms of wine that are exciting you today?
Well, there are many trends. The more positive trends are we've got the sort of Chardonnay on the comeback trail and getting better and better. That's really exciting because I do put Chardonnay on a very high pedestal. We've got a number of new to New Zealand grape varieties like Albarino, and that I think's really got some legs. You know, we're doing some good Albarinos here now. And some other, Tempranillo is another successful red, small stuff at this point, but you know, so that's going strongly. I got a statistic, I came across my computer just the other day, that New Zealand's wine exports have increased every year for the last 23 years. I thought, that's amazing. It really is a very positive thing, and the wines just seem to get better and better. So, yeah, I think the biggest trend in New Zealand is just the increase in the quality of wine. I'm a judge at the Six Nations Wine Challenge in Sydney, and I have been for the last 16 years. And we've just had the latest competition, and Australia won overall for the first 11 years with New Zealand behind. And for the last 5 years, New Zealand's won, you know, by a good margin too. So that's really, really exciting. You know, I feel so proud of my country's wines at the conclusion of that competition each year. It's wonderful stuff.
Excellent. And we're here recording in Hawke's Bay, where we've been tasting through some very iconic wines for New Zealand, Te Mata and Craggy Range. What for you is an icon wine?
Oh, well, an icon wine is, my definition is a wine that's internationally respected, that's a really top example of its type, that's been around for a while. In other words, it's proven itself, and it has an ability to develop well with age. I think that's an important criteria. So, and as far as I'm concerned, Taimata Coleraine is the most iconic wine that we have, for all sorts of reasons. But yeah, so they made the tasting particularly exciting.
And do you see New Zealand with many more kind of icons in the making?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I mean, after having defined an iconic wine, I then identified 15 of them, and that was a couple of years ago now, and that's probably expanded to closer to 20. But it's a long process because they need a decade or more to, to prove themselves. So yeah.
Excellent. And how much you've been obviously educating and writing about New Zealand wine for over 30 years. How much have you kind of seen it change in terms of industry? You've talked about the increase in growth and quality. Have you seen kind of it change in terms of its perspective of the world or its place within it over the last 30 years?
Yeah, there's been just a hugely growing confidence. New Zealanders are fairly self-effacing sort of people, and we don't, not like Australians, much more out there. But there's a sort of realization that yes, we can do it. We can stand proud in the world of serious fine wines, and that growing confidence and has been. I must say, I've been in the wine industry for such a long time that when I first joined in '73, 85% of New Zealand's wine production was fortified ports and sherries. So, and we don't make any now. So, there's been a major transition, in that period.
Seismic shift. Super. My last question is, what are you drinking now? What are you, when you go home to your place in Auckland tonight, what is it that you're cracking open kind of during the week?
Well, what I drink is leftovers. so right now, happily, I'm tasting my Desert Island grape variety, which is Pinot Noir. So I've got a great selection of really good Pinot Noirs that have been opened and just a soupçon taken out of them, and I'm ploughing my way through them, having tested them over the tasting bench. Now I'm putting them to the real test with food and family.
Excellent. Thank you.